The 49ers suffered 2 losses in week 6, and ironically, the loss to the Bucs doesn't feel quite as large as losing Fred Warner for more than likely the rest of the season. I'll be discussing the impact of that in this game and the rest of the season on today's Post-Game Live.
You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Sunday, October 12th. The 49ers just dropped their Week 6 game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They won 30-19. But as I mentioned in the cold open, this loss feels much greater than, well, the Fred Warner loss, I should say, feels greater than this Week 6 loss, of course. And I just want to start with that. I mean, because really it impacted, of course, this game. And I think we can imagine that it's going to impact many more games to come for the 49ers season. And it happened so early in this game. It was still the first quarter. It was barely the Bucs' third drive. So the 49ers' third defensive drive when Fred Warner went down. And it just completely flipped this game on its head. I mean, even going into it, I knew this game was going to be a tough one for the 49ers. I figured, both teams would put up a lot of points. Baker Mayfield, even with a lot of the injuries, has shown, he can operate this offense at a high level and score points when he needs to. So it was going to need to be all hands on deck. And as soon as you see Fred Warner go down, you saw a couple players motion over to get medical attention, including a couple Bucs players, and you think, oh God, this is the worst possible outcome. And there's just like nothing more you can say about just the 49ers injury woes and what they've been going through this season. I mean, this defense already having lost Nick Bosa for the season as well. Numerous injuries on the offensive side of things, but of course, like the offense still, finding a way to keep it together. At times it did feel like this defense could still keep things together even without Nick Bosa. But you did know that a large part of that had to do with Fred Warner being there and being essentially the quarterback of the defense and being able to coach guys up on the field, basically. I mean, love Saleh, credit to him for what he's done so far this season, but we know this defense is nothing without Fred Warner. And we saw that. We saw that as soon as he went down. I mean, like I said, it just felt like the game. I mean, me watching, like as a fan, it was hard to even think about anything else to get back into it. Credit to these players for still trying to fight through this. I mean, it's not easy, especially on the defensive side. It's not easy to have your captain and, again, your quarterback of the defense go down and try to find your way through it, right? In fact, shortly after the injury, we saw Michael Williams get his first sack of the season. I could barely be happy about that because I was just still in such shock of Fred going down. But they were able to force a punt on that drive, and I was like, okay, I mean, this defense still has something to offer maybe, but it sort of went downhill from there, and it was just so hard for, the defense to keep anything together, really, after that. It just sputtered with each and every Buccaneers drive. They just lost a little bit of what they had in the drive prior, and unfortunately I expect that to continue throughout the season. Like, it's just going to be so hard to rally these guys into any productive football on the defensive side without Fred Warner. Like, that's just how important he is. And what's crazy is Fred has, to this point, before today, had only missed one NFL game in his career. For how long has he been with the Niners? Several seasons. So he's been like a stalwart of this defense. He's been everything to them for as long as he's been here, for as long as he started. And yeah, it's not going to be easy to adjust without him. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It was just so hard for me to get back into the game emotionally. And I would say I didn't even get emotionally back into the game, even despite the 49ers, for much of the game, keeping it close enough to where it was still like a one-score game for the entirety until like the very end, late in the fourth quarter. That was actually impressive, right? They were able to keep it close enough. I guess they gave us some hope. But yeah, I think we knew once Fred went down, like this was going to be very, very unlikely. Now, the information that we do have on Fred Warner's injury at the moment is that he dislocated his right ankle. And Diana Rossini about an hour ago did say he'll meet with doctors to determine how much time he will miss, which does, like, hearing that, determine how much time he will miss. Are you saying it's not season ending? Are you giving me a chance? Like, are you saying there's a chance here? You're giving me hope. I still think it's most likely a season ending. I did, I text Desi as well, and she agrees. I know there are different severities to a dislocated ankle, and I'm not a doctor, but just the way that it was twisted when it happened, it was gruesome looking, right? I just have to think that there's probably some ligament damage there, which of course is going to extend the period of time that he is out. But we won't know the extent of that until he gets the MRI results back, which typically happen on Mondays. So the soonest that we'll hear about it is Monday. And I'd say the latest is Tuesday. But yeah, we'll probably know more early this week, which will, confirm how long he's going to be out. But like I said, I do expect that it's more than likely going to be season ending. And with that makes it very difficult for me to say that the 49ers should make a trade for anybody. I know prior to this week, after, the 49ers beat the Rams, Thursday Night Football, thrilling win, I felt like the team showed us something, and I think we all jumped to say this is a team worth investing in, and this is a team that is worth bringing, a pass rusher in to help the defense. But now you have such a large hole to fill that even making a trade for anybody is not going to do much, unfortunately. I mean, if they could still swing a trade for next to nothing for anybody, then maybe they could still get an Arden Key for something super cheap, like a 7th, 6th conditional. I don't know, right? But I don't think this team should waste its time, waste its draft capital, looking to fix a problem that ultimately is probably not going to end up winning you games, because the loss of Fred Warner in itself is just too large to take. Like, I mean, that's what I feel. But at the same time, again, even against this tough Bucs offense and Bucs team, the 49ers offense, we're kind of able to keep it a game, like I said. But at the same time, 49ers offense only scored 3 points in the second half. So some issues there as well. I think the Mac Jones high wore out in this game, but it's not even on Mac Jones. Like, I think we can all agree the offensive line looked atrocious today. The interior of this offensive line looks like a problem. Dominic Pooney in his second season looks to be having a sophomore slump. I think we can confidently say that now through 6 weeks of the season. And, I wanted to be optimistic, and I think they get a worse rap than what they usually look like in some games. Like, I do think that as well. But today it was especially bad, and I don't think anyone can say otherwise. Mac Jones was sacked 6 times for 51 yards in this game. And even with that, Mac threw for 347 yards, no touchdowns though, 2 interceptions. So it wasn't all great for Mac, even just on his own. But yeah, I think the offense kind of ran out of some magic in this game, just like, the defense ran out of magic after after Fred Warner went down. So Kyle Shanahan's speaking with the media right now, and turns out in addition to a dislocated ankle, he also has a broken ankle. So yeah, that's pretty much, season ending right there. That'll basically do it. He's gonna need surgery on that, of course, and he'll miss the rest of the season. So that's now official. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. The 49ers are 4-2, still a favorable record. The Cardinals lost today. I believe did the Seahawks, I forgot if the Seahawks won or not. Yeah, the Seahawks won against Jacksonville, surprisingly. But yeah, I have a hard time having, I guess, too much hope about the rest of the season. I think we're just going to be hoping for the best and bracing for the worst at the same time with this team rest of the season. So yeah, I mean, I guess in some ways that's what we expected this 2025 season to be anyway, with the retooling, with so many things being different, with early season injuries, right? We were just here to watch some of these young players grow and, see what they have. But yeah, I guess we're going to have to just revert back to that now, just trying to find some positive. I will say, though, it was just hard to find positives today after Fred Warner went down. I hate to be a downer. I feel like I'm so this is difficult. This is difficult probably to even listen to, but it's also difficult to, even talk about. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough when you have that many important players out, I know that Adam Schefter had said there's a real chance that Brock Purdy is back next week against the Falcons. It's going to be a home game. I think with Mac Jones having lost this game, if Brock Purdy is closer to 100%, they probably feel better about just putting Brock Purdy out there now. But yeah, I do hope he's 100%. I do really feel for Mac too, because he's just been taking hit after hit. And I memean, for what? You compare his contract to Purdy's, and it's he's taking a beating out there for, however much he got paid. I forgot, but obviously way less than Brock Purdy. So let's talk about the offense really quick. I mean, obviously, as I said, I thought Mac Jones, this loss isn't on Mac Jones. I know he threw 2 interceptions, but there's way more that contributed to that. And honestly, the second interception was at a point where, I mean, the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed much either. So yes, they had a chance, but I guess I didn't really think that they would have a chance there at the end anyway. Time was starting to expire for the 49ers. But in any case, there were a lot of moments where, I thought Mac was getting some really, really nice throws, layered throws. He was accurate. He was dealing, I thought he looked good for as much as he could, in this game, especially in the first half. Again, like I said, it kind of fell apart in the second half, and it was just hard to muster up, drives and sustain drives long enough to get any points on the board in the second half, aside from the one field goal that they had in the third. But I mean, his connection with Kendrick Bourne on display again. Kendrick Bourne, 5 catches, 142 yards. Jake Tunges continues to look pretty good as a pass catcher, 6 catches, 58 yards. Again, I'll keep saying this. I would love to see Jake Tunges continue to get some run as a pass catcher and have him get some involvement as a route runner, even when George Kittle is back. No, again, kind of similar to Brock Purdy, I think, I'm not sure if George Kittle is going to be back for this game against the Falcons, but whenever Kittle is back, I think I'd like to see both of those guys running routes at the same time if possible. Other than that, really, most of the offense was Kendrick Bourne. Juwan Jennings just 1 catch for 7 yards. It was on a 3rd down that he caught his 1 catch, but the interesting thing that we saw today, if you guys were following along on Twitter while watching this game, was that I guess Juwan Jennings and Kyle Shanahan had a bit of a spat on the sideline. Shanahan was yelling at Jennings. Looked like Jennings was talking back at him. And this was like in the 2-minute drill before halftime. And yeah, they were just going at it on the sideline. I did actually catch a small bit of it. Like you can kind of see it on the broadcast. As you can see the 49ers sideline. So in the distance, you see Shanahan, like turning and yelling. And apparently even according to Cam Inman, I'm going to share my screen really quick, actually, for the YouTube viewers here, because I have the tweets from Cam Inman here. I'll just read it off. Colin Jennings still going at it. And this, again, was from 2 minutes. In the 2-minute drill before halftime, Kyle covers his mouth with play card while Shanahan's security detail, Mike Anderson, keeps Jennings away. My other takeaway here is, does Kyle Shanahan have his own big dom? Like, I didn't know this. I didn't know he had his own security detail. It's kind of funny. But, yeah, things got pretty heated between Shanahan and Juwan Jennings. Someone said, it seemed like Jennings was on a pitch count. Now, remember, Jennings had missed some time, right, with a couple of injuries now. And so with Juwan Jennings making his return, I don't know if he was completely 100%, but there are moments in this game where, maybe I'll say he didn't look entirely locked in. And I don't know if that's some other factors happening there, or if it's just because he's not 100%. Again, I'm speculating on that part, but there were moments in this game. There was one drive where Juwan Jennings had 2 flags called on him, and they ended up having to take a field goal on that one instead of potentially keeping that drive alive and being able to score, right? So those 2 penalties ended up hurting the 49ers offense. And I could only imagine that added just some fuel to the fire between Jennings and Kyle Shanahan. But those penalties happened after that altercation on the sideline. And I guess Juwan Jennings was asked about the sideline argument, to which Jennings said, ask him, talking about Shanahan, also said he is playing with 5 broken ribs. Wow. Okay. So there you go. Jennings not 100%, but I think, that kind of just shows hey, I'm putting my health on the line for you. And, whatever his issue is or was with Kyle Shanahan in that moment, Jennings didn't appreciate it because he's playing with broken ribs, I guess. So that's the oblique injury, I guess, that we had heard about. Or sorry, it wasn't oblique. That was Mac Jones. But yeah, a number of injuries, like I said, for Juwan Jennings that he is dealing with right now. Let me see if I can find any more from the media availability that's happening right now. Let me see if I can play this video. This one is from David Lombardi talking to players in the locker room.
20%. You got ribs, 5 broken ribs. It is what it is. You keep playing. Nobody cares. You keep playing. That's what we do.
That's right. Now you've got 5 broken ribs?
Yeah, I got 5 broken ribs.
All right, so yeah, him talking about the broken ribs. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy that he's doing that again. Juwan Jennings playing on the final year of his deal. He did get more money to play this season, but just a couple million. It wasn't anything crazy. Obviously wasn't the contract extension that Jennings was hoping for. So he's playing for essentially a new contract. I would imagine it's not going to be with the 49ers. He's looking to get a bag somewhere else after this season and clearly putting his body on the line. But in any case, like, the sequence in which he had the 2 penalties really hurt the team in that moment. And I mean, that's all I'll say on that. But let me get to some comments here. Yeah, hoping for the best for Warner, man. I mean, he looked like he was in good spirits as he was getting carted off. I mean, yeah, I was just sick, like, watching that, though. I think we all were. Strawberry has a question. Wasn't it the Tampa game where Debo hit Tabor Pepper in the throat? I don't remember. Was it that game? I will say this, though. Eddie Pinheiro continues to be a stud as a kicker. Like, he still has not missed a field goal as the 49ers kicker. Let's not jinx him now. But he was 4-4 today. He had a couple of 50-yarders, a 40-yarder, and then a shorter one. But he contributed to 13 of the 49ers' 19 points today, if that tells you anything. So again, it wasn't just the defense sputtering. The offense kind of fizzled out in this one as well. And again, that's tough because you knew you were going to have to score some points to get over this Bucs team that has a Baker Mayfield that is rightfully so in some early season MVP conversations. That run that he had in, I believe it was the third quarter, when he was almost sacked by Bryce Huff and one of the other defensive linemen, and they can't bring him down. And it was like a 3rd and long situation on that one as well. And he scrambles, breaks multiple tackles, and gets the first down, reaches over for it. Like, he's playing some incredible football. Incredible football. I love Baker Mayfield, but did not love what he did to the Niners today. The 49ers defense, like I said, looked lost. The secondary looked lost. Malik Mustafa made his return today. It seems like Robert Saleh is trying to find a way to get all these safeties on the field. The one guy we definitely did not see today, or much at least, I don't think we did see Pinnock today, right? Like, I don't remember him being in the game. Jair Brown did indeed start, but it was kind of a rotation, or at least just like I said, Saleh trying to figure out which combination of safeties works best for which situations. Not sure. But I did kind of expect that we would see this with the safeties, that Saleh would play the matchup game with them and, wouldn't completely bench Siegel. Like, Siegel got less playing time today, obviously, with Mustafa back and Jair Brown playing more snaps. But he was in there quite a bit as well still. And it just didn't look like it helped anyone at all. I mean, like I said, the defense just looked lost most of the time. And, Baker Mayfield hit this team deep a few times. And where the 49ers just looked lost, coverage busts, galore, I should say. And, yeah, I mean, I hope that improves. But I just don't feel good about the 49ers secondary. It was already a position I was worried about in the offseason. But I think that the 49ers went into it thinking the secondary will be okay because our defensive line is going to be improved and it's going to be able to mask the secondary. Hey, we still have Fred Warner and D. Winters, looks great. Except that now you don't. Like, now you don't have Nick Bosa, so this defensive line can't get any sort of pressure consistently. Quarterbacks have all day to throw. And your secondary just can't cover for that long, if they could even cover at all, if they're not coverage busting out there, So now it's definitely exposing the secondary to what they really are. And there's a lot of youth in that secondary as well. And so we're seeing that, right? Unfortunately, that's going to be the story of the rest of the season for the 49ers defense. It's not going to get any easier without Fred Warner on the field. I mean, almost everything that opposing offenses do is with Fred Warner in mind, if not literally everything. Because he's just that important. He can wreck a play in any given moment. And so now with the threat of him not being there, it opens things up. We saw it open things up for the Bucs in a big way. And that is even with Emeka Egbuka exiting this game early. He did not play the second half of this game. He had a hamstring injury, didn't return. So that was a break right there, in addition to all the other players on the Bucs offense that weren't active for this game. And still the 49ers couldn't stop them. There were moments in this game where the tackling just looked reminiscent of the 2024 version of this defense, and that is just not good. They just forgot flat out how to play, how to tackle, the fundamentals. And that to me is a problem. At the end of the day, they still have Robert Saleh as the defensive coordinator. I do think he's going to coach them up to the best of his ability. But again, he's also going to have to try to mask for the loss of Nick Bosa and now the loss of Fred Warner, which I just think is too big to overcome. So, yeah, I hate to be, a negative Nancy on it, but I just think that's how we're all feeling right now. The positive is that the 49ers still have a relatively easy schedule for the rest of the way. Next week, like you said, they play the Falcons. I am worried about Bijan and what he's going to do to this defense, especially if, this team can't tackle. Another thing, this team has not gotten an interception in 13 straight games. That's an issue. That's a huge problem. So they're not generating turnovers. The one guy like Fred Warner who's able to peanut punch and, get his hands on the football, tip balls, in the intermediate level of the field, you're not going to have that anymore. So it just got that much harder to even think about getting picks especially if you're secondary and the soft zone, you're giving up a lot of space to opposing wideouts. And again, it just looked very easy for Baker Mayfield in the second half, especially. So Rob Amon says D. Winters has to be the leader. Someone has to be the leader. And generally, if there's going to be a leader on the defense, generally it's a linebacker. It just usually, especially anyone who steps up as the Mike linebacker usually is a good candidate to be a leader on the defense. So that's going to be Winters going forward. Then, hopefully this defense could rally behind him. But like I said, someone and maybe multiple guys are going to have to step up. Tatum Bethune entered the game after Fred Warner went down. Did see more Luke Gifford as well. So we're going to start to see some of these younger guys. I imagine next week you're going to see Nick Martin. Everyone has been clamoring for Nick Martin to be active, and why isn't he active, and all these things. Guys, I'm sure there's a reason he hasn't been active, and maybe when we see him, we'll maybe see why, but I like Nick Martin. I just think he needed some time. He needed time. We'll see if he gets any playing time, but I think it's going to be Tatum Bethune. Next man up. Obviously, D. Winters. I mean, he was already a starter, so he's not going to get additional snaps. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good place to look for the next leader of the defense, D. Winters, who already looked like he's matured quite a bit as a player and filling in the will spot. So hopefully it's not asking for too much to have him step up in Fred Warner's absence. Someone needs him. Iman. Sorry for mispronouncing your last name. Rob Iman. And thanks for the comment. Yeah, it's Nick Martin's season. I guess we'll find out, right? I guess we'll find out. But I like Tatum Bethune too. I think he's got some good stuff as well. Not as fast as Nick Martin. Everyone's enamored with the speed of Nick Martin, but the speed also hurts him sometimes because he doesn't always go to the right place. he sometimes overshoots things, but he did improve quite a bit in the preseason. So let's see if he gets some playing time next week or going forward. We'll see how much growth Nick Martin has done in these first few weeks of the season. Oh, geez. I don't even know, guys. I don't know. All right, so let me get through a couple of other things here that I kind of wanted to mention. Yeah, the turnovers. 49ers didn't win the turnover battle today. That hurt them. It was just a collapse altogether. It was kind of a full team collapse. I already talked about the offensive line. The interior just got exposed, got run over. And I don't know. I mean, I talked about Pooney, right? Like, it looks like he's having a sophomore slump. Jake Brendel, not much improved, if any at all, from last season. Connor Colby, 7th round rookie. Ben Barch is not coming back next week based on what Kyle Shanahan said. It's still going to be some time for him. So this interior is just struggling really bad right now. I don't see it getting any better. If Brock Purdy has to play next week, I mean, I'm praying for him. Let's just say that. I'm praying for whatever quarterback is out there because they're both banged up. It's just not a good situation for them to be in, especially with the wide receivers, being not the great, like Pearsall, no Pearsall. So like you don't have guys who are getting open that quickly. You still have Christian McCaffrey who got the ball a lot today. He's 17 carries for 54 yards. Hey, the 49ers had their first rushing touchdown of the season. Silver lining, I guess. He still averaged just 3.2 yards per carry, but at least he punched one in, right? 7 catches, 57 yards for McCaffrey through the air. But they need more, right? Like, they definitely need more. Yeah, this offense needs all those guys back, Kittle, Pearsall, whoever they could get back, because they're going to need to score a lot of points going forward if they want any chance of winning games, pretty much going forward. It can be done. I mean, you see teams with bad defenses win all the time. Quite frankly, the Bucs defense isn't that good or hasn't been that good this season. The Bucs have just been able to score a lot of points, even with their injuries, right? So the 49ers need to find a way to do that. There were moments in this game where I thought Kyle was doing a good job, like calling plays. Like I said, it just kind of, it became too much to overcome at a certain point in this one. But I think now knowing what you have in front of you and just knowing what it is, like this team is going to have to be aggressive on offense and maybe even defense too. Like, you're just going to have to take some chances. And so maybe knowing that going forward, they'll have better plans going forward. I already feel like Kyle Shanahan has done a hell of a job adjusting to all of the different injuries that this team has faced so far this season definitely has done a better job at doing that than he did last year. So maybe he has one more in him. Maybe he has more to make up for, I guess, that he could do. So we'll be looking out for it next week. Again, when the 49ers play the Falcons Sunday Night Football. And it's prime time. My goodness. But yeah, with that, I guess I will let you guys go, but try not to be too down on the Fred Warner news, I say, as I'm very down on the Fred Warner news. That one's tough. I was about to buy myself a Fred Warner jersey. I still will, but it's like all the player jerseys that I have right now are either hurt or they're just not on the team. I have Bosa, I have Kittle, and then I have a Debo jersey. So I was legitimately about to buy a Fred Warner jersey, but I think I'll wait. I have no words, people. I have no words. I ran out of them. So with that, make sure you guys like this video. I know it wasn't the outcome we wanted today. I know we're all upset, but I do still appreciate your guys' support. So hit that like button if you could muster up, the energy to. And hit that notification bell so when I go live. I'll be back tomorrow with my show with Weston. We'll try to find some silver linings of performances in this game. I imagine it'll be tough, as usually is after a loss. And of course, we'll talk about this Fred Warner injury a little more extensively. By then, I imagine we'll have more of an idea of what the timeline is for Fred Warner. Again, we know he's definitely going to be out for the season. So there's no hope there for a 2025 return, even, with playoffs. So don't even think about it, but we'll talk about what it means for the rest of the season, of course. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. I really appreciate it. And yeah, have a good rest of your Sunday if you can. If you have the day off tomorrow, enjoy that as well. Maybe cry a little if you need to. But for now, peace.